All right, buckle up. We're talking about budgets again here at the at the State House here on the 208. Another exciting day, or I guess it's all relative when it comes to what is going on at the State House. But lots of debate continuing, both in the floors and the hallways of the legislature, on how lawmakers should attack these budgets. Leaders of the JFAC committee say the new process is meant to be more transparent, more interactive, easier to work through. We've talked about this the last couple of days, couple of weeks, in fact. But the critics say that's creating bad budgets that won't even keep the lights on for some of these agencies. Okay, so yesterday they separated, went their separate ways, talked about this for a while. Did they do more of that today?
Well, they took one vote, and we'll talk about that in a second, but, well, there's a lot of talking to be done still. We're still waiting, though, to see exactly how this process will unfold. But we did get an indication on what the temperature is in the room being the House chambers. And to begin the day, lawmakers in the House knew that they had big votes on an initial batch of budgets. And they are big votes because they're the first maintenance budgets up for vote. And that word, maintenance, is a key conflict word. The concept from JFAC is to pass budgets to essentially keep the lights on as a base budget, and then lawmakers would circle back later in the session to add line items, replacements, supplemental stuff. Critics of the idea say that there's no guarantee that lawmakers will circle back and that the maintenance budgets, they aren't really that, but instead bare bone budgets. JFAC leaders, they dispute both of those assertions. So when the first maintenance budget came on the House floor docket this morning, it happened to be the judicial budget. So lawmakers, yes, they were voting on the budget, but they were really also voting on the process. And critics say it's just not working.
I think we all share the same objective of ensuring that we have a budget process in place that allows for certainty going forward, transparency that allows us to actually identify individual items within the budgets placed before us, and the opportunity to actually ask questions about what our agencies are requesting of us in the process and to make the assessment of whether or not we are providing true maintenance for our state agencies.
Okay, so that's the real crux of the debate. But supporters of the new process say that it works. JFAC co-chair Representative Wendy Horman answered questions about the process using the judicial maintenance budget as the living example of coming budgets.
I respect that everyone in this room might have a different definition of maintenance. And because I happen to know who sets the agendas for the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee, I can assure you that hearings are scheduled and will happen for the other needs that the courts have identified that they have that are new spending or a new funding source.
So again, we're talking about the judicial budget specifically, but this applies to all the maintenance budgets. So long story short, the maintenance budget did pass the House floor, 38-31 with one lawmaker absent. But lawmakers broke into a long caucus right after the vote. They also broke into another meeting right after the floor session. So Brian, I've been trying to get the word from down what's going on in those backroom meetings. Don't have an official decision yet, but again, we know this is going to be a debate on process.
Okay, so 38-31, does that seem like a close vote, like too close generally?
It's a pretty close vote, and kind of what you have is different factions of the Republican parties partnering up with the Democrats. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how that gets, talked about, number one, in terms of people working together and who's a real Republican, who's not a real Republican. But it's going to get complicated. And there is a situation where they're going to vote on Friday on more budgets. It'll be interesting to see what process they use.
Assuming they don't go to another caucus. All right, thank you very much.